It might be common for families to have conflicts or financial issues. Yet, there are probably also families who are somehow pulling it together and making an effort to get through everyday life. It's pretty clear which one is happier, don't you think? My name is Michelle. I've been called an oddball since I was a child. I don't know what's different about me. I only think I'm different because people say so. Being called different isn't a problem, but the real issue is being shunned by my own parents. I ended up having a lonely childhood. I have been sensitive to people's emotions and I can somehow read their minds. I don't know why I can do this. It's not like I can always see or feel it, but it's as natural to me as moving my hand or breathing. So I found it strange and couldn't understand why others couldn't do the same. There was a time when I felt a sinister aura or emotion, or whatever you call it, from a colleague my father brought home from work. I warned my mother to be careful with that person, but she didn't listen. Later on, that colleague managed my father into signing a contract as a guarantor for a loan. Although my mother didn't take my advice, when my father stepped away from the table with his colleague, I told him, "Dad, something is telling me that the word joint is dangerous. I don't know what joint means, but please be careful." So, my father hesitated and refused to sign as a joint guarantor. Thanks to that, when my colleague went bankrupt and couldn't repay the debt, my father was able to avoid shouldering all the debt. Another day, when I was shopping with my mother, I felt a wave of discomfort coming from behind us. When I turned around, I felt this wave coming from a man wearing sunglasses and a hat. "Mom, let's take that side street." Saying this, I grabbed my mother's hand and moved to the side street. My mother was confused and asked what was wrong, but just as we moved to the side street, we heard a shout of "Thief!" from the street we were just on. The man with the negative aura had snatched a woman's purse who was walking in front of him and ran off. The woman who had her purse snatched fell over from the momentum and got hurt pretty bad. If we hadn't moved to the side street and continued walking, the man's target would have been my mother. Such things happened frequently, and I was labeled as a strange and mysterious child. And paradoxically, my parents began to avoid me. I was lonely and isolated. What seemed normal to me was not perceived as normal by others. I began to keep my mind to myself, since being the strange, weird, and spooky child is who I am to others. I stopped expressing that, even if I felt something, it was something normal people don't feel. It was because I understood that if I didn't say something, they wouldn't say I was a weird kid, that I was just like a normal kid. I have a sister, Amy, who's 3 years younger than me. Unlike me, Amy's a regular kid. As the years go by, I find myself growing darker, retreating more into my shell. But Amy just gets cuter and more charming. It's clear who anyone would prefer. Our parents clearly started to favor Amy over me. "Amy is such a lovely girl, but Michelle seems to be a bit on the darker side." Indeed, Michelle has become less odd lately, but she's still a bit different, isn't she? What they call odd was me refraining from talking about things only I could sense. It was my way of dealing with the world. I was fed up with how this power of mine was torturing me, and I was trying hard to suppress it. I wondered if my attempts to hide myself and appear normal were ironically making me seem abnormal, or if once labeled as the odd kid, the image just couldn't be erased. I grew up without receiving much love from my parents. On the other hand, Amy received all the love, including my share. Amy, who was pampered and raised, sensed my parents being cold and distant towards me. She started to look down on me. "I don't like being around you. It feels like your gloominess rubs off on me. I'm so cute, but your loner image brings me down." She started to insult me whenever she got the chance. Our parents just lightly scolded Amy, but they never seriously tried to correct her. When I was in 8th grade and Amy was in 5th grade, she was scouted by a talent agency on the street. I knew it! It's because I'm cute. They said I could even appear on TV. Amy, pleased with herself, started dreaming big, and our parents didn't seem entirely against it. You should calm down and think carefully. I sensed something shady about this. I spoke up, expressing the intuition that I had long suppressed because I didn't want Amy to get into trouble. Amy, who didn't know about my unique ability, said, "What's your problem? Are you just jealous because you're not cute and nobody approached you? Don't say weird things and stop interfering with me." She seemed furious. Even my parents, who knew about me, either forgot about it or were too excited about Amy standing on the glamorous stage, sided with Amy and criticized me. After that, I resolved to remain silent again. I told myself that there was nothing good in saying unnecessary things. One day, a student teacher came to my junior high school. He was a male college student who graduated from the school and aspired to be a physical education teacher. As he shared his dreams about education and gave a strong greeting, the teacher and students, especially the female students, were charmed. When he responded cheerfully to the girls' excited cheers, I sensed a dark aura from him. I had always vowed to hide myself and not reveal my unique abilities. But seeing my classmates potentially in danger, I decided to break my self-imposed rule. I chose a teacher who seemed understanding and talked to them. "I know this is sudden, but please believe me and help me." The teacher was puzzled by my sudden request, but she agreed to stake out a certain location after school just as I asked. I didn't tell the teacher the details. I had no reason to think they would believe me, but the fact that they agreed to help without any explanation might mean they're not an ordinary person either. And the next day, the school was in an uproar. A male student teacher was arrested for violating a public nuisance prevention ordinance. The location where the teacher staked out was near the girls' restroom, and within 15 minutes of starting the stakeout, the student teacher appeared, entered the girls' restroom, and installed a video camera. The teacher caught him in the act. Thanks to that, female students were saved from being secretly filmed, and their dignity was protected. Meanwhile, my sister, who was scouted by a talent agency, proudly joined the agency, but there were no real lessons or auditions. She only had to pay expensive membership and lesson fees. Then, suddenly, the agency closed down, leaving an empty shell. In short, my sister was scammed. She cried and screamed, directing her anger at me. "It's all because you said weird things! My future is ruined! It's all your fault!" It didn't make any sense, but my sister seemed to truly believe it. Maybe that's the only way she could handle it, but for me, it was a disaster and a nuisance. Our parents didn't say such unreasonable things, but their attitude became more distant towards me and more supportive of my sister. I ended up feeling lonely again, as the odd one out. I was happy that I could help everyone at school, but I was terrified that my actions would corner myself. That's when I received a call from the teacher who had listened to my story, asking me to come to the staff room. Worried that I would be labeled as strange again, I opened the door to the teacher's staff room. "You knew something like that was going to happen, didn't you?" The teacher asked me in a low voice without any preamble. Thinking there was no point in pretending, I gathered my courage and told the teacher about my mysterious power. "I thought so. I know there are very few people like you." For the first time, someone showed understanding for my situation. The teacher said they knew someone with a power like mine, and that's why they could understand. Actually, that person is my aunt, and I've been listening to her stories for a long time. You must be worried about a lot of things because of your power. Maybe getting advice from someone who's been in your shoes will help clear your mind." Saying that, the teacher introduced me to the person. The person looked at me with kind eyes and said, "It's natural to be worried," and, "But you don't need to suffer." I was drawn to their gentle yet deep eyes that seemed to see through everything. The person's name was Haley, and she had the same kind of power as me since she was a child, and she had experienced a lot of struggles and hiding herself throughout her life. The stories from my senior who had gone through the same experiences helped me release my worries and doubts. From this day on, my interactions with Haley began. I called Haley my mentor, but she just gave a wry smile and said, "Please don't." Thanks to Haley, or rather my mentor, I changed. I had been living my life hiding as a quiet, unnoticeable existence. But as my consciousness transformed, I gradually began to live a normal life as an ordinary girl. However, since the incident with the talent agency, I have not been able to reconcile with my sister. If anything, it feels like we're drifting apart. It's become normal for her not to talk to me, and when she does, it's just to complain or insult me for no reason. I often have no idea what triggers her mood switches. My power couldn't predict my sister's emotional changes either. Just because you got into college doesn't mean you're all that. It's not even that great of a level, and you're so happy-go-lucky. My sister, who had been expected to get into her top choice high school, ended up at her second choice safety school. Because of that, she got mad when I got into my first choice college. It's not like I'm full of myself or brag to her. She just disses me because of her own assumptions. Our parents only try to appease my upset sister and keep their distance from me, as if telling me to stay away from her. It seemed that my sister didn't like the fact that I had become brighter since meeting my mentor. To my sister, I had to be a dark and gloomy girl who was inferior to her. But my sister is really smart. It was surprising that she failed her high school entrance exams. Of course, she was filled with frustration, and she poured all of that into studying at her new high school. As a result, she was at the top of her class for all 3 years and got accepted into a prestigious national university in one shot. I got into the most difficult university. Your college doesn't even come close to mine. I lightly responded with, "That's true," to my satisfied sister because I knew there was nothing good to come from getting too involved with her. However, my sister thought that my light reaction was belittling her accomplishments and unleashed a barrage of verbal abuse at me. Both my parents were at their wits' end with my sister, who couldn't be calmed down once she lost her temper, and all they could do was watch nervously. My parents blamed me for causing the trouble and eventually ended up calling me a troublemaker. I wanted to argue back about who the real problem child was, but I always swallowed my words to avoid complicating things further. Setting aside my sister's issues, as I approached college graduation, I had to seriously confront my own career path. Although I was no longer as introverted as I used to be, I still struggled with socializing and had little confidence in building good relationships with others. My ability allowed me to detect people's negative emotions. While I could sense positive emotions as well, it seemed people were more prone to negative ones, which made detecting such negativity painful for me. Throughout my school life, I was tormented by these swirling negative emotions and had come close to losing faith in people. Could someone like me really manage to work at a company? I decided to consult my mentor about this dilemma. I wanted to learn how she had overcome similar issues, as I was sure she had faced them as well. "I have experienced the same worries as you. Maybe you should consider doing the kind of work I do." My mentor used to work as a fortune teller and a counselor, helping people resolve their problems. She could use her abilities to their fullest extent and contribute to the world and people around her. Also, she was able to work freelance, which meant she didn't have to belong to any organization, and there were fewer chances of getting entangled in human relationships or being affected by other people's emotions. "It's the perfect job for people like us." Encouraged by my mentor, I decided to pursue the same line of work. She taught me everything from how to do the job to how to acquire clients. Nowadays, thanks to the internet, it's possible to work from home without any issues. When I told my parents and sister that I would not seek employment after graduation and work from home instead, they responded, "What's that? What kind of job is that?" Seems so dumb. You'll be home all the time? At least make sure to do the housework. Can you even make a living doing that? How will you cover living expenses? Well, as long as you contribute to the household, do whatever you want. While I expected such a response from my parents, it made me feel a little lonely that they didn't support me more. I felt sad thinking about their demands for housework and money. My mood darkened, and so my life working from home began. At first, I didn't have any job requests, and I struggled day by day. But with my mentor's help, I gradually got the hang of it and started to make a living. For about a year, I couldn't contribute financially to the household, so I focused on doing the housework. My dad seemed unsatisfied, but my mom was relieved and kept him in check. After about a year, when I finally started contributing financially, my dad mocked me by saying, "Finally, you're able to earn some pocket change, huh?" But I could tell that he was actually quite satisfied with the money. However, even though I was contributing, the amount of housework I had to do didn't decrease, and our lives remained unchanged. Then, after another 2 years, my sister graduated from college and secured a job at a foreign company. Unlike you, I'm an elite. You're just unemployed, living at the bottom of the barrel. It's so depressing to have you as a sister. My sister, who had successfully landed a job, started to belittle me for working from home. What are you even doing working from home? That's just like playing. You're nothing more than a parasite living at home. At times, she'd say, "It's really weird not to work outside. I'm working my butt off, earning everyone's respect, and now I've been promoted to team leader. My pay is going to increase, and I'm probably earning about 10 times more than you. There's no way a homebody like you can earn that much." My sister, who was promoted to team leader after only a year and a half in the company, kept one-upping me and looking down on me. She boasts about her good salary, but hardly contributes any money to the household, and she doesn't help with the chores at all. Laundry, cleaning, preparing meals, everything is dumped onto Mom and me. When I say Mom and me, Mom mostly leaves it to me, so I'm basically carrying everything. Whenever I say to her, "Amy, you should take care of yourself a little. You shouldn't just spend all your money on fun. You should contribute to the household too," she just dismisses me saying, "You, the unemployed, can handle the chores. I'm saving my money for my future." Our parents also just let her do as she pleases for some inexplicable reason of, "It's Amy, it can't be helped." I was used to my current lifestyle, and it was a comfortable environment for me to work, so I wanted to keep it that way. But I was starting to consider how to take care of myself. And then came the bombshell announcement from my sister. "I'm getting married!" Without any prior warning, both our parents and I were taken aback as she continued, "He's really rich, a real elite with an annual income of over $20 million. Oh, sorry for finding happiness before you, but marriage is just a pipe dream for unemployees like you, isn't it?" And she said she would bring her boyfriend over the next Sunday. With the rapid-fire succession of sudden developments, Sunday came as we were still reeling. The man my sister brought along looked like a successful young man, impeccably dressed with a sharp suit. "Nice to meet you. My name is Danielle. I would like to ask for your permission to marry Amy." His greeting was completely proper, and he showed good manners. "See? Isn't he wonderful? Just as I said. I'm going to be so happy with this man." "So, Danielle, what do you do for a living?" Dad managed to ask a question while being overwhelmed by the boyfriend's aura. "Yes, I'm currently training at a company that my father knows." We were puzzled by the word training, and then Amy said gleefully, "His father is the president of a company. He's training outside now to take over the presidency in the future." My sister seemed over the moon about the prospect of becoming a future president's wife. Afterwards, we had various conversations, and Amy's boyfriend left stylishly. There were a few things that made me raise an eyebrow in the conversation that followed, but my parents were thrilled with the high-spec man. However, I felt an inexplicable dark shadow from that seemingly refreshing and good-natured man, Daniel. It's something only I can feel, so I don't know how to explain it. However, I could no longer remain silent, fearing that marrying a man with insecurities would make my sister unhappy. Amy, you've only been dating him for less than 3 months, so you might want to understand him a little more before deciding to get married. I had a strong gut feeling warning me of something, but I was unable to articulate it properly. All I could do was attempt to caution Amy using general advice.
What are you talking about, sis? He's an elite and a future CEO. You won't find anyone better than him. Oh, I see. You're jealous, aren't you? You're bitter because you're comparing your life to my happy one. Poor jobless sis.
Even our parents got angry at me for getting in the way of a rich man becoming part of our family. You're just unemployed, so at the very least, stop interfering with your sister's happiness. It was clear to me that our parents were hoping to secure a comfortable old age by marrying Amy off to a wealthy man. Frustrated by my inability to effectively communicate my concern about the dark shadow, I sensed looming over Amy. My head was spinning. In the meantime, the two got engaged, and a meeting between both families took place. Daniel's parents, like him, carried an air of freshness about them, but I felt the same ominous cloud hidden behind them. However, I was unable to convey this danger to my overjoyed sister and parents, and before I knew it, the day of the wedding had arrived.
The CEO of our company is attending today's reception. Can you comprehend how much I'm appreciated and anticipated in my company? I guess it's a kind of honor that a shut-in like you wouldn't understand.
Before leaving the house, my sister gleefully shared this news with me without me even asking. She always included some derogatory words directed at me. At the wedding ceremony, held at a hotel, the couple who pledged eternal love to each other entered the reception hall. Watching my sister, who was beaming with joy, I worried about how long this happiness would last. As my sister mentioned, the CEO made a keynote speech. Naturally, it was full of praise for my sister, which delighted her. Once the speeches were over, food and drinks were served to each table. There were all sorts of delicious-looking dishes, but I started to feel a sense of discomfort gradually. That's because no dishes were being served in front of me. At first, I thought it was just late, but other tables were already being served drinks, appetizers, and so on, one after another. Clearly, something was off. Nothing was being delivered to me. People at the same table began to notice this oddity and started whispering among themselves. At that moment, my sister came over to me and whispered into my ear with laughter in her voice.
We didn't prepare free meals for the unemployed. After all, it's such a waste to serve such food to a jobless person. You should just eat potato chips at home. Just leave your gift money and go home.
This outrageous remark was spoken loudly in my ear, and my ears rang. Daniel, sitting at the groom's table, was grinning and nodding greatly. Even our parents, who at first seemed surprised, said, "Well, it's true. Michelle is jobless after all." I was first taken aback. Then a wave of anger surged up within me. I never thought you'd stoop this low, sis. Mom and Dad, this is unacceptable. How could you accept such rudeness? My parents just scowled at me, never bothering to reprimand my sister. Fine, I get it. I'm leaving, but don't come crying to me later.
What's with the parting shot? The howling of a sore loser, I guess.
Amidst the chaos of this unbelievable turn of events, a man suddenly stood up. Sorry to interrupt, I'm the groom's brother, Kyle. My brother and parents are trash, but it seems the bride is even worse. I can't take it anymore. The man who introduced himself as Kyle continued to speak. Dad, your company went bankrupt 6 months ago, didn't it? Pretending to still be a CEO is just a scheme to mooch off the bride and her family. Daniel will never become a CEO, yet he still plans to leech off his wife while pretending otherwise. After all, he's unemployed now. The man's words stirred up a commotion among the guests, but the person who was most heated up was my sister.
What do you mean? You lied to me? What do you mean unemployed?
A storm of questions with a red-faced expression. Her face gradually turned from red to blue, her eyes welling up with tears. Our parents, their assumptions proven wrong, began to yell and curse. The anguished cries of my family echoed throughout the venue. The groom and his parents remained silent, looking sulky. In reality, before the ceremony, I had received a confession and apology from Kyle and asked him to speak his mind without reservation if something happened during the reception. Then, as my sister was berating Daniel with a wrathful face, another man couldn't take it anymore and stood up. It was the president of my sister's company. "Enough already. This is embarrassing. You have no right to criticize the groom. What do you think about your terrible attitude towards your own sister?" The president's angry voice made my sister's face contort in fear. "For one, I didn't attend your wedding for your sake. I wouldn't have come if you weren't the sister of Michelle." Suddenly, my name was mentioned by the president, and my sister's eyes widened in surprise.
Huh? Who are you talking about?
Michelle is a goddess to many of us business owners, rescuing countless companies from the brink of collapse. In fact, with the guidance of my mentor, I had been working as an advisor for corporate revitalization and growth, starting with fortune telling and life consultation. Although I lacked business knowledge, I used my abilities to show companies the path they should take. All my advice was spot on, and the companies that sought my help experienced a rapid resurgence in business, achieving a V-shaped recovery. As a result, I had earned titles like teacher and goddess. My sister's company had also consulted with me 6 months ago, and thanks to my advice, it had been reborn as a stronger enterprise. The president, grateful for my assistance, attended the wedding today as well.
I had no idea! You're not just a basement-dwelling unemployed nobody, are you?
Thanks to my thriving career, I now earn several times what you do. Despite contributing significantly to the household income, our parents never seemed to care about me. I wonder what they thought that money was. Uh-oh, we thought Amy provided that money. The parents seem to have misunderstood the situation. There's no way Amy would have been contributing money to the house. The wedding reception turned into a chaotic scene and was called off. Naturally, all the guests were fully refunded their wedding gifts.
I was planning on using those wedding gifts to pay for the venue. What am I supposed to do now? Besides, I've also been relying on Daniel's income and have already signed a contract for an apartment under my name. I can't afford it on my own, especially now that he's unemployed.
Daniel, in response to his sobbing bride, retorted, "You're the one who signed the contract. I don't know anything about that."
I want to divorce you, fraudster!
The wedding was a complete disaster. It was a result of gratuitous malice towards others. She may argue that there were reasons for her malicious behavior, but there was no way that was going to fly. Afterward, Amy divorced Daniel and claimed alimony. As Daniel was jobless and his parents didn't have much, she couldn't receive much alimony. She barely managed to pay for the wedding venue, let alone the apartment she had contracted. The place that was supposed to be their love nest was never occupied and was canceled. However, the debt didn't simply vanish, and Amy found herself heavily burdened by the loans. Moreover, her outrageous behavior at the wedding was quickly known among her colleagues, which led to a rapid decline in her reputation. The CEO had no choice but to demote her. With no place left in the company and having lost her pride as an elite, Amy wanted to quit and run away, but she had to bear the embarrassment for the sake of loan repayment, continuing with her trivial job in a hardly noticeable basement storage room. Daniel and his parents, who had failed in their plan to leech off Amy, were now scraping by with occasional day labor. Naturally, Sean's elder brother Ethan had cut off all ties with his parents and brother. The parents quickly gave up on Amy when she hit rock bottom and tried to cozy up to me instead. To them I said, "I've had enough of being manipulated by you. I'm cutting ties. Goodbye forever." I declared this and moved out to start a new life in a newly rented apartment. They took in the fallen Amy, who was struggling to make ends meet. Amy's salary was drastically reduced, and she couldn't possibly contribute to the household expenses. Of course, I stopped the money that I was contributing to the house as well. Unable to lower their standard of living, our parents quickly became exhausted and are panting every day. My work is going so well, and I'm able to guide many companies and individuals in the right direction. In fact, I started dating Kyle after the whole wedding incident, and he recently proposed. If things go well, marriage could be on the cards. I'm looking forward to building a happy life with Kyle, a man of pure heart with no dark shadows. My name is Jaylani. I live with my husband, Theodore. Together, we run a set meal restaurant. This restaurant, named Sunflower, is a place that my grandfather had lovingly maintained for years. It has many regulars from the local area and has been loved for a long time. However, my grandfather, who had always been energetic as the owner, was also battling cancer. I can't just sit around in a hospital room. I'll work at Sunflower until the end. Even as his condition worsened, my grandfather never complained. He kept serving delicious food with a smile on his face, chatting with regular customers. Today, surrounded by his family, he breathed his last breath. My grandfather named me, his granddaughter, his successor for the restaurant. Maybe he had realized his time was near. He left a detailed will, including instructions about the inheritance of the shop. Accepting my grandfather's will, I decided to become the owner of Sunflower. Thankfully, even after my grandfather passed away, the customers didn't stop coming. The employees who had been working for us continued to serve faithfully. Having watched my grandfather's cooking all my life, I was confident that I could continue to serve dishes that tasted just like before. Perhaps it was because I was cooking with all my heart to keep the restaurant going, but the regular customers who were used to my grandfather's cooking gave positive feedback. "This taste! It's just like your granddad's. It feels like he's still here even though he's gone." The regulars were delighted that they could continue to enjoy my grandfather's flavors. Sunflower has been thriving just like when my grandfather was around, and I'm more motivated than ever. However, since my grandfather passed away, my husband has started to show dissatisfaction. "Normally, a man would be the owner of a restaurant. I don't get why you inherited it." "I'm his granddaughter. That's why. The restaurant is in my name, but we're running it together, so it doesn't really matter, does it?" "Well, I guess." My husband seemed to have wanted to be the owner and sometimes vented his frustrations, but I'm the one who mainly cooks. Since my grandfather's time, my husband has mainly been handling the cash register, deliveries, and shopping. An owner who can't cook doesn't quite fit the bill. I could have given in a little and not been so stubborn, but my grandfather had nominated me. Once nominated, I didn't want to disregard my grandfather's wishes. "Jaylani, can I have another one of these?" "Sure, got it." The restaurant is still bustling, and I'm busy every day. Then, one day, someone paid a visit. "Hey, big bro, long time no see." It was my husband's younger brother. This brother-in-law of mine was quite a troublesome character. Despite his age, he didn't hold a steady job and was always flitting about, playing around. To be honest, I found him difficult to handle. Last year, he moved far away, saying he was going to find work, but it seems he quit that job and came back. "Oh, welcome back." Despite this, my husband cherished his younger brother. My husband seemed glad that his brother had returned to our hometown. "I heard the old man passed away. You took over the shop, right, bro?" "No, not me." "No way! Your wife? Seriously? A woman running a shop? That's hilarious." Unaware of the annoyed looks from the customers, my brother-in-law roared with laughter. I felt silly engaging with my brother-in-law and decided to ignore him. "Since we're family, it's free, right?" "Yeah, sure." My brother-in-law ate a large meal, drank beer, and left without paying. That's how unreasonable he is. "Our relatives come here too, but they always pay. It's unfair to make only your brother free, so please charge him next time." "It's fine. He doesn't have money. It's okay to give him a break." My husband seemed to be siding with his brother to the end. After that, my brother-in-law regularly visited the restaurant and ate and drank without paying. Each time, I warned my husband, but he would not listen. Perhaps because I was being persistent, my husband became grumpy and talked less. As our relationship worsened, my brother-in-law started coming to the restaurant more frequently. And each time, he would whisper with my husband in the back of the kitchen. I'm sure they were bad-mouthing me. I tried not to mind their behavior and kept cooking. While glancing at me working hard, my brother-in-law had this conversation with my husband. Can't we somehow make this restaurant yours, bro? The name is in my wife's name, so... The location is good. There are many customers. Let's make it your restaurant and monopolize the profit. It must be hard being under your wife's thumb like this. Well, yeah, but... My brother-in-law had set his sights on Sunflower and was scheming to make it their own. Taking advantage of our marital strife, he was trying to get my frustrated husband on board. But how are we going to make it our restaurant? I have a good idea. The two began to quietly plot. My husband agreed with his brother's opinion, and they decided to put their plan into action. The next day was the restaurant's day off. My husband left early, leaving me alone. Even though it was my day off, I remembered that the kitchen was dirty. I decided to visit the restaurant and spend the whole day cleaning. When I tried to open the door of the shop, it was unlocked. Thinking I'd forgotten to lock it yesterday, I rushed in, and there were my husband and brother-in-law. Oh, you're here! I was surprised because the door was unlocked. It's our day off today. What are you doing? As I called out, the two of them smirked as if they were up to something. Actually, we have something to talk to you about. Since you took over this restaurant, you've been getting too big for your boots and it's bothering us. I'm not getting big-headed. No, you are. Don't you think so? I do. You're happy because the restaurant's thriving and profitable. What are you trying to say? The two of them spoke as if they were making fun of me, which frustrated me. As I showed my angry expression, my husband started to spread out some documents on the table. I'm sick of your attitude. Let's get a divorce. The document was a filled-out divorce application. Surprised by the sudden announcement, I was stunned. Huh? What? What do you mean? I was shaken, unable to understand what my husband was thinking. The first thing that crossed my mind was about the continuation of the restaurant. There are a few employees, but running the restaurant alone after the divorce would surely be hard. This is too sudden. I don't understand what you're saying. It would be hard for me to keep running the restaurant alone if we divorce. About that, we're going to buy this restaurant. We're going to start it anew as our own, so we want you to leave. I couldn't understand what my husband was saying at all. It's such a waste to continue running a dull diner in such a good location with so many customers. We're gonna make this restaurant better. That's why? Please sign the divorce papers and leave quickly. The two of them were saying such absurd things that I couldn't keep up. This is a restaurant that my grandfather protected. The profits are already enough. We should continue as we have been for the sake of the customers. So you're saying you have no intention to grow? In a little while, a restaurant like this will go out of business. To prevent that, I'm saying I'll start a new restaurant. No matter what I said, I couldn't get through to them. Surely my husband must have been brainwashed by his brother. Well then, we'll buy this restaurant for whatever price you want. We'll be able to earn it back quickly, so any price is fine. I couldn't stand the bullying attitudes of the two of them. All right. If that's the case, I'll sell it for $50,000. Please wait for 2 weeks while I prepare the divorce papers and the contract. And during those 2 weeks, neither of you should come to the shop. Once I said I was selling the shop, the two of them were in high spirits. There was a reason I was giving up the shop so easily. They were selfishly talking without knowing about it. In the meantime, I managed to run the shop alone. Huh? Where's your husband? Well, we're actually getting a divorce. What? So suddenly? So, will you be running Sunflower alone then? No, my husband is buying the shop. I'll be leaving in 2 weeks. The customers were surprised and looked genuinely disappointed. But there's some good news too. I quickly distributed flyers that I had made to the customers. When they saw it, their expressions immediately relaxed. And 2 weeks later, I presented the contract to sell the shop and the divorce papers. There are no complaints with this, right? My husband promptly signed the contract. $50,000. I'll transfer it to your account right now. So this is my shop from now on. My husband and brother-in-law were ecstatic. With them out of the corner of my eye, I packed up my belongings and left the shop. On my way to file the divorce papers, I was excited to see what the two of them were going to do next. My ex-husband and brother-in-law immediately started running the shop. We've explained the situation to the employees, and even without Jaylani, the shop should run fine.
All right, let's make some money.
With that, the two of them began to prepare for the day with enthusiasm. At 10 o'clock, when the shop usually opens, a different scene unfolded.
Why aren't the customers coming?
There were no customers who usually came as soon as the shop opened. The employees who had always been diligent about coming to work weren't at the shop either. My ex-husband tried calling the employees, but no one was answering. They had never experienced anything like this before, and the two of them began to panic. Rushing out of the shop, my ex-husband noticed a regular customer walking by.
Hey, you're our customer, right?
Huh? Oh, yeah.
I've been worried because you haven't come in yet. Come on in.
Didn't you say the wife quit the shop? I was coming here for her cooking, so maybe I won't come anymore.
Don't say that. We'll definitely serve something delicious.
My ex-husband somewhat forcefully guided the customer into the shop. The customer reluctantly entered the shop and started to look at the menu to place an order. What's with this menu?
Since I'm the shop owner now, I've decided to drastically change the menu.
The traditional sunflower set meals were nowhere to be found on the menu. The menu was filled with foreign words, and it seemed difficult for the customer to understand, causing a drop in enthusiasm even before ordering. Then I'll have this steak.
Understood.
My ex-husband and brother-in-law enthusiastically started cooking. The customer, who had never seen my ex-husband cook, anxiously awaited the meal. Hey, is it ready yet?
Sorry for the wait.
Finally, 40 minutes after the order was placed, the meal was ready. When the steak was brought to the table, the customer's eyes widened in surprise. What is this? What my ex-husband served could hardly be called a meal. There were only 3 pieces of meat in the center of the plate. The outside was burnt, and the inside was raw. There was no sauce or anything else, just a bowl of bread and soup.
We used high-quality ingredients, so we only used salt and pepper for seasoning. We cooked it to bring out the aroma of the outside and enjoy the rare inside.
The customer didn't touch the steak, which looked like a failed dish at first glance. Upon closer inspection, the soup appeared to be instant. I'm sorry, but I can't eat this. The disgruntled customer stood up, ready to leave the shop. My ex-husband was shocked that not a single bite was taken.
Customer, you still have to pay. That will be $30.
$30? You're joking! I can't pay for this garbage-like meal? The furious customer stormed out of the shop. Taken aback by the unexpected turn of events, my ex-husband and his brother were stunned. At the same time, they realized they were in a dire situation. Neither my ex-husband, who had barely ever cooked, nor my freeloader brother-in-law could possibly run a restaurant. They should have realized this if they thought about it, but they were too focused on making money. From that point on, not a single customer visited the Sunflower under their management. Meanwhile, I had started a new shop in a different location. It's Sunflower 2. The employees who had worked at the original Sunflower are also with me. This shop was also inherited from my grandfather. My grandfather had been concerned about the aging Sunflower and its durability, so he had built a new shop in a different location. He wanted to announce the new shop once it was finished, but he passed away before the shop was completed. This shop was entrusted to me. I had not disclosed the existence of this new shop to my ex-husband. During the 2 weeks I handed over Sunflower, I advertised the new shop. Regular customers who wanted to eat my food all followed me. Thanks to that, the shop has been bustling since its opening day. We have enough margin to hire a few part-time workers. Since I have the $50,000 I received from my ex-husband, I can also add to the employees' salaries. Here, I began to offer my original dishes. To broaden our customer base, I came up with menus for younger people and even weaning food that small children could eat. This has attracted a lot of attention, and the number of families visiting has increased. While keeping my grandfather's flavors, I'm growing the shop to fit the times. The daily hustle gives me a sense of fulfillment. Meanwhile, My ex-husband and his brother were at a loss in the old Sunflower. They had borrowed a large amount of money to pay me $50,000, and now they are receiving demand letters.
What are we going to do about this? You're the one who suggested this, right? Figure it out!
The brother-in-law, whose predictions had gone awry, was holding his head in his hands. Then he had an idea.
I've got a great plan.
Hatching a scheme, the two of them suddenly showed up at my bustling restaurant during the busy lunch hour.
Jaylani, please help us!
Despite the restaurant being packed with customers, the brother-in-law was shouting loudly.
My brother hurt his arm and can't cook anymore. We'll give the old restaurant back. Could you return the money as well?
You guys took over the old restaurant, remember? You signed the contract. You need to take responsibility and make it work. I brushed off the brother-in-law's plea and was about to return to my work when my ex-husband appeared from behind him, looking pained.
Jaylani, help me.
Thinking he was being overly dramatic, I was about to turn back to the kitchen when the restaurant became noisy.
Whoa! What's that? That looks painful. Is he okay?
When I looked towards my ex-husband, seeing the customers stirring, I was taken aback. His fist was covered in a large bruise. Are you really injured?
That's what I've been saying.
Then go to the hospital right now. I quickly called a taxi and sent my ex-husband to the hospital. During my lunch break, I went to the hospital to check on him. When I arrived, he was just coming out, apparently finished with his examination. As I tried to ask what had happened, the two of them avoided my gaze and hurriedly ran off. Feeling suspicious about their behavior, I decided to inquire at the hospital reception. I believe a man named Theodore was seen here earlier. Has his examination finished? I came to pick him up.
Please wait a moment.
I had them check on the status of his examination using his name. However, the receptionist was looking puzzled. There's no record of such a consultation. Perhaps he went to a different hospital? My ex-husband hadn't received an examination. Remembering the sight of the two running away, I felt they were hiding something. I quickly set off to pursue them. A few minutes of driving later, I spotted my ex-husband and brother-in-law walking. I immediately stopped the car, grabbed my ex-husband's arm, and called out to him. I knew it! Looking at the fist of the arm I grabbed, the bruise was completely gone. My ex-husband and brother-in-law tried to run, but I mustered all my strength to stop them. Seeing my furious expression, they quickly calmed down. Why is the bruise gone? You weren't injured after all.
Well, running a restaurant's hard. The old Sunflower hardly gets any customers, so we can't make money and can't pay back the debt. That's why I pretended I was injured and couldn't continue the restaurant to try to get the money back.
I'm appalled. You were trying to deceive me with such a childish lie.
I let go of the two. Don't involve me in your affairs from now on. You two figure out what to do with that restaurant. I got back in my car and returned to my restaurant. Through the mirror, I could see the two hanging their heads in shame, which made me feel pathetic. Afterwards, the two quickly put Sunflower up for sale. I think they made that decision to repay their debt, but due to the building's age, they struggled to find a buyer. They received a flood of debt collection letters and were working around the clock. This life suits them, having thrown away something precious due to their greed. As for me, my newly renovated restaurant is thriving even more than before, with sales doubling. One of my regular customers offered to apprentice with me, so now I have a disciple. I often remind him that running a restaurant is not as easy as my ex-husband thought. I want to continue to carry on my grandfather's restaurant for the foreseeable future.
I found out that my husband was cheating. It was just when I reached the end of my second trimester, and I was mentally preparing myself for my expected delivery date. Moreover, not only had my husband cheated on me, he'd even gotten the other woman pregnant. Far from showing remorse, both him and his lover are defiant. Well, if they want to play games with me, I'll show them that I can play better. I'm going to drag them both down to hell. My name is Michelle, and I'm 27 years old. I'm married to Matthew, and we're about to hit our 2-year anniversary. We both used to work for the same conglomerate. had crossed paths several times, and he was the one who made the first move. I didn't have a boyfriend at the time, so I decided to give dating a shot. Things just fell into place, and before I knew it, we were engaged. We found out I was pregnant in the first year of our marriage. I broke the news to my husband on our anniversary, after we'd confirmed the baby's heartbeat. Guess what? We're having a baby. What? A baby, Matthew. Our baby. I'm 8 weeks pregnant. Really? I'm going to be a father? I gave a small nod, and then he hugged me with a beaming smile. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. I'm so incredibly happy. Hey, easy there, Matthew. You're squeezing me. I can't help it. I'm so excited. A child of ours? The baby's going to be so cute. Hee hee. I think so too. Let's keep working hard together as partners. Yeah, absolutely. That day, my husband was genuinely happy about my pregnancy. Even now, I believe his reaction then was a genuine one, because after that, he supported me in many ways during my pregnancy. I took maternity leave early, but I was so nauseous that I couldn't do any household chores. So my husband took over and would run errands like get fruits or do the laundry and do the best he could around the house. However, as days passed, I began to sense something odd. The first time I noticed something was off was when I had just entered my second trimester. As my nausea subsided and I was able to do some household chores again, my husband stopped coming home at the time he usually did. I began to worry about my husband, who would come home past midnight. One day, I decided to ask him about it. Matthew, you've been coming home really late recently. What's going on? What do you mean? I'm just working overtime. But you used to come home every day at the same time. Well, yeah, I did. But that's because you were having such a hard time with your morning sickness. I forced myself to come home on time. There were actually days when I should have worked overtime. So now that I'm better, you're working overtime? Yeah, that's right. I've been relying on others too much till now. I have to contribute to the company when I can. I see. Okay, that makes sense. My husband, Matthew, had switched jobs after our marriage, moving to a different company within the same corporate group. Perhaps he was struggling due to his new assignment. Around this time, Matthew started spending less and less time at home, and I was left on my own more frequently. Amid all this, my close friend Ellie, who learned about my pregnancy, started visiting regularly. With Matthew often absent and me feeling anxious of being alone, her thoughtfulness was truly appreciated. I had most of my newborn essentials ready, and was starting to feel the reality of becoming a mother. While I had anxiety with all the first-time experiences, I was looking forward to the birth of our child, encouraged by Ellie. Then one day, as usual, Ellie came over to visit. However, her expression was oddly dark that day. She's the energetic type, so this was unusual, and it made me worried. I asked her about it. Hey, Ellie, what's wrong? You seem different today. Huh? Do I seem off? Well, not exactly off, but you're not your usual cheerful self, are you? You've been forcing a smile ever since you got here, am I right? Not really. She denied it, but she was clearly avoiding my eyes. Worried, I pressed her further. I know you might not want to talk about it, but I'm worried. I can't just ignore it when my best friend looks so sad. Michelle, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to burden you when you're already going through a lot with your pregnancy. It's not a burden at all. Come on, what happened? If you're okay with it, you can talk to me about it. Well, actually, I couldn't process what Ellie said next at all, and I had her repeat herself. I'm sorry, what did you just say? I said, Matthew is cheating on you. Huh? What Ellie had been trying to hide from me was the fact that Matthew was having an affair. Apparently, she had seen him at a restaurant the night before when she was dining out with a friend. He was there with a younger woman, holding hands, and they were gazing into each other's eyes and even kissing. I have photos as evidence. Do you want to see them? Show me. As I looked at the photos, a wave of nausea washed over me. Oh. Michelle, are you okay? Yes. Sorry, I just feel a little sick. It's not surprising. I shouldn't have shown you this. No, it's not that. You gathered this evidence for me, right? I appreciate it. Michelle, I had assumed she was wrestling with some personal issue, so I was completely thrown off guard. I never imagined that Matthew was cheating on me. Just yesterday, he said he was staying late because of having to work overtime. Were all those times he said he was working overtime a lie? I'm going to be in my 3rd trimester soon. I can't let this slide. That night, I decided to confront my husband when he got home. As usual, he came home just past midnight. When he saw me still awake, he was surprised, but tried to maintain his composure. Michelle, what are you doing up so late? You're pregnant. You shouldn't be pushing yourself like this. Matthew, I need to talk to you about something. There's something you want to talk about? Where were you last night? What were you doing? Huh? Like I said, I was working late. It's been like this for a while, remember? Whenever I come home late, it's because... Then what's this? When I shoved the picture I got from Ellie in front of him, his expression obviously changed. As he started and tried to avoid my gaze, I relentlessly demanded answers. Tell me, this was taken yesterday, wasn't it? Who is this woman? That's, a colleague. Oh, really? Since when do you hold hands and kiss with a colleague, Matthew? Well, how did you even find out? So you've been cheating on me this whole time, Matthew? At the mention of cheating, my husband became silent and eventually looked away. He was probably trying to come up with an excuse. Just as I was thinking that, he shocked me with his response. Ha ha, yeah, I cheated. So what? Ha ha. What? Why are you acting so defiant? You know what you did. It's just cheating. Stop being overdramatic. I can't help it if women are attracted to me. What the heck? Can't help it? I'm literally carrying your child right now. Oh, right, you are. But there's no law that says I can't cheat on my pregnant wife, is there? It's not about the law. It's a matter of common decency. Having an affair is absurd, especially when I'm pregnant. Despite my tearful pleas, he just started playing with his phone and ignored me. I stormed up to him, grabbed his collar, and demanded, Enough of this. What's wrong with you? Reflect on yourself and apologize to me now. You're so annoying. There's nothing for me to reflect on. I haven't done anything wrong. You still got the nerves? I've had enough. Just as I was about to snap back, our doorbell rang, and my husband went to answer it, as if relieved. A woman's voice came from the entrance, and she entered the living room with my husband. I immediately knew this woman was my husband's mistress. But there was something else that caught my eye. It was her belly. Like me, the mistress also had a baby bump. Facing the two who were happily gazing at each other, I somehow managed to speak. Wait a minute, Matthew. What's this about? This woman is your mistress, right? Yeah, so? Her name is Layla. Isn't she cute? No, I mean her belly. She's pregnant too, isn't she? Yeah, isn't it obvious? She's pregnant just like you, so you can relate to her, right? Haha. What? His blatant remarks filled me with revulsion. I was at a loss for words when Layla the mistress spoke to Matthew in a cooing voice.
Hey Matthew, can I really take these newborn essentials that are here?
Oh yeah, of course, he responded with a smirk. You're having a girl too, so feel free to take anything you need.
Yay, thanks Matthew.
If you need anything else, I'll buy it for you.
That's so generous of you, Matthew.
What on earth are they talking about? All the baby items here are for my daughter. By now, I was beyond shocked, and all I could feel was my blood boiling with anger. I raised my voice at them as they continued their outrageous conversation. Enough! I am the one who bought these baby essentials. Don't just say you're giving them away. What's the big deal? You have money, so you can just buy them again, right? Layla is struggling financially. That's not my problem. In fact, you should be the one buying her stuff. Shut up. She's a fellow pregnant woman in trouble. Can't you think about helping her out a bit? You've got to be kidding. Why should I have to help your mistress? Matthew sighed heavily and scratched his head before saying this to me. I'm not coming home for a while. What? What are you saying all of a sudden? I'm worried about Layla and talking to you is just irritating. I'll come back when the baby's born. Are you serious? Of course I am. Hey Layla, gather all the things you want. Let's go home together. His words made the mistress nod happily. I stood there, dumbfounded, as they picked up the newborn essentials I had bought and headed for the door. Sorry, seems like I'm his favorite, huh? Hearing her say this, I was left speechless. It hurt, but it was a fact that she was his priority. I can't forgive him anymore. To betray not only me, but also the child in my womb. I won't let it end like this. I will definitely get my revenge. Having decided on my retaliation against them, I began packing from the very next day. With that, I visited a real estate agency to look for a new place. Honestly, it was tough moving around with my big belly, but I had to do it, not just for me, but also for my child's sake. For my baby. With that sole determination, I prepared to separate from my husband. I gave birth without any issues and started living with my daughter. Then, after a long time, my husband called me. Hey, Michelle, long time no see, haha. What do you want now, after all this time? Despite my icy words, my husband continued. So, I guess you must have given birth by now. Layla did too, haha. So what? You, the traitor, have nothing to do with us anymore. Don't be so cold. I was just thinking about you, so I thought I'd call. Oh yeah, send me a picture or something. Excuse me? Don't be ridiculous. Sorry, but this child isn't yours anymore. Come on now. Well, whatever. I'm coming home right now. With that, he abruptly hung up the phone. Where on earth does he think he's going home to? Imagining my husband's ultimate destination, I couldn't help but smile. Predictably, I received a call from my panicked husband. Hey, Michelle, what on earth is going on? I pretended to be oblivious and responded, What's wrong? You sound frantic. What's wrong? There's someone else living in our apartment. Oh, so they found a new resident. Well, it's a popular apartment being close to the station after all. What the hell? What are you still don't get it? I ended our lease for that apartment a long time ago. I've moved to a different place. You don't have a home to return to anymore. What? Desperate cries came from my husband over the phone. Well, wait a minute. Why would you do that without asking me? Without asking you? Did you forget? That apartment was originally mine, and you only moved in. Well, but we're still a family. Family? Are you kidding me? Who the hell would want to be your family? But my husband finally seemed to understand the situation, his voice trembling over the phone. Wait, Michelle, I beg you, I really do. I never meant to leave you. That's fine, because I've only ever intended to leave you. This can't be. You're joking, right? I love you. Don't joke with me. What do you mean you love me after you cheated on me? You wouldn't understand, but a man can love two women at the same time. Like I care. Go ahead and have fun with your mistress. You're misunderstanding something. I love her, and I love you. I don't intend to let either of you go. Plus, it's going to be hard for you as a single mother, right? Your daughter needs a father. And what about the child of your mistress? I'll manage as a father to both. After all, I'm a father to 2 children now. I felt utterly sick at my husband's self-serving logic. With pent-up resentment overflowing, I lashed out loudly at my husband. You're the one who betrayed me and our unborn child first, right? On top of that, getting your mistress pregnant at the same time? You really got some nerves. It's disgusting. You're done as a person, you piece of trash. Oh, Michelle, I'm sorry. I apologize. Huh? I don't need your apologies now. Your apologies don't mean a thing. My daughter doesn't need a deadbeat like you as a father. Hey, calm down. Let's talk. Let's find a solution together. And you may have forgotten, but you only got your current job thanks to my father's recommendation. That's right. The only reason my husband was able to switch jobs was because of my father's connections. My father, an executive at the group company where we both worked, recommended my husband to his superiors, saying, he has potential. As a result, my husband's income increased, and he probably got carried away because of that. He spoiled his lover and even got her pregnant. He's a hopeless man who repays kindness with betrayal. I continued lashing out to my husband, who was left speechless. Just so you know, you're no longer a husband or a father. I'll be claiming alimony and child support in full. Atone for your sins with that, and go to hell with your mistress. But, Michelle, wait. Shutting down my husband, I hung up the phone. I blocked his number and completely cut ties with him. After that, my divorce procedure went smoothly. I claimed a substantial amount of damages from him and his mistress. I also claimed child support from him, and even the cost of the newborn essentials that his mistress had stolen without permission. As a result, they ended up in debt, and my furious father got him fired from his job. Now he's apparently living a meager life in a cheap apartment with his mistress. To earn child support for his mistress's child and mine, I heard that he's working from dawn to dusk. He's now completely overwhelmed going back and forth between his home and work. On the other hand, I'm living peacefully with my daughter. I'm not lonely, as my parents and my best friend Ellie visit me regularly. Recently, my daughter's been able to hold her head up, which makes it a lot easier to take care of her. She's going to continue to grow. Being able to see her grow up right in front of me is such a blessing. It's a privilege that man will never have, a privilege that's only mine. I want to treasure each day with her and build a wonderful relationship with her.
I'm so tired. Hey, grab me a beer and some steak.
Mother-in-law, what are you just sitting there for? Go get some beer and snacks. You're really useless.
It was New Year's Eve, and my house was filled with relatives. My eldest son and his wife had just arrived and wasted no time in bossing me around. Still stunned by their rudeness, my daughter-in-law continued with a sour face. We haven't even gotten a thank you for the Christmas gifts yet. Huh? Sierra's study desk and shoulder bag, They were nice, weren't they? Or didn't you like them? The colors were so cute. I clenched my fist and quietly responded. All right, let me thank you then. Avril, I see you've started wearing men's cologne. Avril sniffed her sleeve with a shocked expression. Mom, Avril doesn't wear cologne. Wait, you're right. I hear all kinds of things from your son, Kyle. All kinds of things. I grinned at my visibly sweating daughter-in-law. My name is Liliana, and I'm 63. I work part-time in a restaurant, and my husband of the same age is still working full-time. Of my adult children, my eldest son, Benedict, and his family live in a high-rise apartment in town, while my younger son, James, and his family share our home. That's because James' daughter has health issues. After their marriage, they rented a condo but moved in with us to be closer to the big hospital where their daughter had been hospitalized several times. Being closer makes it more convenient for medical appointments, and my husband and I can look after our granddaughter if needed. I get along well with James' responsible yet unassuming wife. But no matter how much time passes, I can't get along with my non-live-in daughter-in-law, Avril. Are you guys struggling financially? One day I finally asked her. Avril habitually drops by unannounced and helps herself to our fridge. That day she was stuffing an array of high-end hams, fruits, and vegetables into her bag.
Don't lump us in with James and his wife. We have college and grad school degrees, you know.
So you won't mind leaving some for us?
It's just a little food. We're spending a fortune on Kyle's entrance exams.
In the end, she took canned and ready-to-eat foods too. My husband and James returned from a day out to find the fridge empty and were bewildered, but we couldn't tell Avril to stay away and just put up with it. One day, I came home from work and went to my dresser, only to find my jewelry box empty. James's wife wouldn't just take my jewelry without asking. When I asked Avril, she texted back,
I borrowed them.
But then, no word from her for 6 months. I couldn't take it anymore and called her. Avril, can you return my pearl necklace and diamond earrings? They're heirlooms from my mother. I'd like them back.
Oh, I lost them.
You lost them?
Sorry. I'll return them if I find them.
I was at a loss for words, too drained to even complain as I hung up the phone. I didn't want to blame her too much. It felt like bullying my daughter-in-law, and that made me uncomfortable. I convinced myself I'd given the money to her and let it go. I had been putting up with Avril's antics because I didn't want to make a fuss. But then, something happened that pushed me over the edge. One day, I went to the department store with my second son and his wife. We were shopping for a shoulder bag and a study desk for our granddaughter who was starting elementary school. The shoulder bag section had everything from simple colors like red, blue, and yellow to more vibrant shades like lavender and pink. My granddaughter picked a simple red bag. Sierra, are you sure about this one?
Yep. It has cute hearts and butterflies on it.
All right, let's go with this. We also picked out a nice sturdy desk with a beautiful wood grain and plenty of storage. Both items would be delivered around Christmas. We left the department store in high spirits. Then Christmas Eve came. Sierra had been invited to a mom's friend's Christmas party and went out with my second son's wife. In the evening, after Sierra's desk and bag had been delivered, my eldest son's family showed up. Here's your Christmas gift, Kyle. The latest gaming console and some games.
Thanks, Grandma. I've wanted this forever.
Kyle's eyes were shining. He probably couldn't afford it himself. Yet Avril had a new designer bag every time I saw her. As they were leaving, Avril opened the door to Sierra's room without asking and peeked inside.
Wow, a red shoulder bag? How outdated.
And the desk looks old-fashioned. Sierra chose them herself. It's none of your business. I couldn't help but snap back. Avril glared at me.
Defending her again, huh? You think she's so adorable?
Our Kyle is way more accomplished. She's the granddaughter of 2 people who didn't even go to college.
If you're going to go there, then
I have my own thoughts on the matter. Avril smirked and left. I dismissed her as all talk, never thinking she'd actually do something. The next day, I came home from work and was hit by an awful smell as soon as I walked in. The source was Sierra's room at the end of the hall. When I opened the door, I was stunned, then screamed. The The brand new study desk had been vandalized with red spray paint. I'm a poor elementary school student. Mom and Dad didn't even go to college, idiots. And her shoulder bag was splattered with brown paint. When I picked up the shoulder bag, my hands were sticky with paint. The hearts and butterflies that Sierra loved were now smeared in brown. Just then, Sierra and my second son's wife came home. They too were speechless at the sight, but Sierra walked past me and picked up her bag.
My bag is ruined.
Tears rolled down her cheeks and my heart ached. I quickly called the department store. After showing the pictures of the desk, I was told it was difficult to fix, so I reordered the same desk and shoulder bag. I was relieved to know they would arrive by the school ceremony and left the department store. When I got home, my husband and our younger son looked furious. Our granddaughter had cried herself to sleep. I had a hunch and asked my husband about it, and I was right. I reached out to our grandson and he kindly agreed to my request. Days later, I shared the results with my husband and our younger son and his wife. They agreed with my opinion. Now, all that was left was to wait for the holiday season when all the relatives would gather. 2 weeks later. On New Year's Eve, my house was bustling with relatives. Our eldest son's family was running late, but our grandson had arrived earlier to have dinner and play video games with our granddaughter. When the date finally changed, our eldest son and his wife arrived. Barely greeting anyone, they joined the party. They looked displeased when they saw only salad and some roast beef left on the table. "What the heck? There's barely anything left, man. I'm tired. Hey, give me beer and a steak."
Mother-in-law, why have you been zoning out? Go get us some beer and snacks, either from a supermarket or a grocery store. You're really useless.
Although furious, I held my tongue, considering the gathering of relatives. And then they complained more.
I haven't even heard a thank you for the Christmas gifts.
Gifts?
The desk and shoulder bag for Sierra? I made them cute for her.
Avril smirked.
I thought they looked poor, so I modernized them. Oh, you didn't like them? They looked like they were soaked in mud. They would perfectly symbolize her grim future.
Our niece's parents are dim-witted, so she'll never go to college. Poor, uneducated, and sickly. Her life's already a mess at 6.
Hilarious, she's living the dream.
You! My younger son was about to lash out, but I held him back with a glance. I understand. Let me thank you properly. With clenched fist, I headed to the kitchen. I returned to the room with steak and a can of beer that I had prepared in case the table emptied. I slammed the raw steak in front of my eldest son and his wife and stabbed it with a knife and fork. Here, steak. Then I popped open a can of beer and poured it over Avril's head. Here's the beer you were waiting for. Mom, have you gone mad?
What are you doing? My eyes!
My eldest son rushed for a towel. No one intervened. Everyone was just stunned. After wiping her face and hair with the towel, Avril, her makeup ruined, yelled at me.
Mother-in-law, do you find it amusing to torment your daughter-in-law?
What are you talking about? But Avril, I've noticed you've started wearing men's cologne. I can smell it from the dress you're wearing. Avril sniffed her sleeves, looking startled. It's the same cologne my father used to wear, I remember it. My eldest son frowned, puzzled. Mom, Avril doesn't wear perfume. Oh, you're right. Avril pushes past her husband, stuttering as she tries to explain.
It's someone else's scent, okay?
Even though you came in the car. I shoot Avril a sharp look. I've heard quite a few things from Kyle, you know. Quite a few things. It's winter, but Avril is sweating. Her husband presses her. So you were at your high school reunion overnight, right?
Why wouldn't you believe your own wife over your mother?
The room goes silent except for the voices of the arguing couple. The relatives who were chattering moments ago have gone quiet, now keenly observing the marital dispute. Just then, my grandson walks in. He nods at me and speaks to Avril.
Mom, you're close with your private tutor, aren't you? Do they teach at your alma mater? Yes, they do. To get into prestigious middle school, you need connections, even with teachers. Is that so?
Their son slyly takes out his phone and presses the playback button before setting it next to the raw meat. Avril's voice soon fills the room.
Oh, stop. Not now. Kai will be back soon.
We're fine, don't worry.
I'm looking forward to spending New Year's Eve at a hotel with a beautiful view.
I've cleared my schedule for that day. Thank you for always being generous.
Don't mention it. I make good money as an elite postgrad.
The room starts buzzing again, and her husband's face turns beet red. I just remembered an urgent matter. As Avril tries to sneak away, her husband grabs her arm. You're cheating on me with that college student?
So what if I am? I'm young and successful. Men are naturally attracted to me.
Avril becomes defiant.
I could have earned more than you if it weren't for Kyle. You think you're so great just because you earn a bit more with just a bachelor's degree?
She seems to realize she's misspoken.
Kyle did nothing wrong.
She tries to hug her son from behind to cover her slip, but he shakes her off.
I wasn't planning on divorcing you. We still have entrance exams to think about.
At the mention of entrance exams, her husband's expression changes. Single-parent families are at a disadvantage in exams. I'll let it go this time. He returns to the seat next to Avril with a cough. But Avril isn't done. She turns to my younger son's family.
Even if my salary's decreased since giving birth, it's still way above what bottom feeders make.
She gazes smugly at my younger son's family, who are politely enjoying the roast beef. That's right, comparing us super elites to you barely middle-income folks is just sad.
We live in a penthouse. We're at a different level. Honestly, I'm not too keen on letting our kids hang out.
I couldn't help but laugh at Avril's pompous statement.
What's so funny, mother-in-law? That's rude.
I'm sorry, but when people with zero class say something, it's laughable, don't you think? No matter if you're a high school grad or a dropout, there are many out there who are far more decent than you. I looked at my eldest son, sighed, and touched my cheek. Don't you feel embarrassed doing this in front of Sierra and Kyle?
Would you just stop?
Avril stood up, pointing at the younger son and his wife.
Benek and I work at prestigious companies, not some rundown factories like you people. Kyle will surely get into an elite middle school. We are the chosen ones.
And yet you both got fired from those prestigious companies. The room went tense.
How do you know that?
Avril mumbled. Can you believe he got fired after all that bragging?
His younger brother, who works hard as a loving wife, is way more respectable.
And to think he acted so high and mighty with that innocent face. Avril looked down at me, stunned, and asked in a raspy voice,
How did you know, Mom-in-law?
Didn't you know? My sister is the CEO where you worked. She told me you both were let go for bullying your colleagues. Gasps filled the room. The eldest son and his wife, the momentum they had until just now disappeared. Now they are crouching, hiding their pitiful faces. What about the lawsuit from your subordinate for causing depression? They recorded your verbal abuse. Avril glared at me, grinding her teeth.
We'll get the best lawyers. And we still have Kyle.
She moved to her son and laughed triumphantly.
My son was already chosen for a scholarship. A bright future is guaranteed if you have capable parents. Right, Kyle?
What are you talking about, Mom? Kyle spoke, clearly annoyed.
The scholarship was my doing, while you were too busy with your private tutor. Let me choose my own path.
Avril went silent, a sour look on her face. I'm leaving this family, Kyle announced.
What? I talked to Grandpa in Detroit. I'm moving there.
Don't you dare make decisions on your own. Ignoring his father's shout, Kyle pulled out his phone.
I can't live with these kind of people. I'll go crazy.
He showed a video to the relatives gathering around. In the video, my eldest son spray painted on his niece's study desk, yelling,
Woohoo! I'm going to repaint my niece's poor shoulder bag into something stylish. It's like muddy water, so it's fun.
Avril was also there, splashing brown paint on a shoulder bag.
This is just insane.
The relatives frowned and shook their heads. Even with their education, they're awful people. Being highly educated doesn't make you a decent person. At those accurate words, the eldest son and his wife fell silent and looked down. My grandson continued his rant.
So you got fired, and now you're planning to make Grandpa pay for my tuition? You think it's his duty to support his grandchild? You worry about losing your financial support if I move out, right?
Yeah, no more fun money.
We won't even be able to buy clothes if unemployment runs out.
Before worrying about that, think about the legal fees. When I offered this scathing advice, Avril paled significantly.
We need money even to settle out of court. Benedict, what are we going to do?
The eldest son, who had turned as white as a sheet, clung to me. Mom, lend me some money. We're family, aren't we?
You are Benedict's mother, aren't you?
After everything you've done, you've got the nerve to ask. You've got some nerve. Ignoring his parents who were being berated by the relatives, the grandson went back to his video games. Eventually, the party ended and one by one the relatives left. The eldest son and his wife, who had been abandoned by their son, snapped back to reality when only the second son and his family remained. They lashed out at me.
You're destroying our family. That's really low.
How could you use your grandson to set up your son like this? Are you even a mother? If you have something to say it now. This is your last chance. What? From now on, don't step foot in our house. My husband took over from there. We want to cut ties too, but since we can't disown you, we've made a notarized document. You're cut out of the inheritance. This seemed to finally shock them. My eldest son held his head in his hands and groaned. Avril's eyes filled with tears as she began to tremble. And for good reason. Our estate is significant, including a considerable amount of land and rental income from condos and apartments. I'll say it again. Benedict gets nothing from the inheritance. You'll have to figure out a living expense and legal fees for yourself. Don't bother us anymore. You're a nuisance. With these cold words, the eldest son and his wife were devastated. They had been living comfortably in a high-rise apartment downtown until the layoffs came. They couldn't afford the management fees and moved to a cheaper apartment. However, our relatives who lived in the same town spread rumors about them, so every time they went out, they got bad-mouthed and had to sneak around even to go shopping. Although the case he was sued by his subordinate was settled by paying a settlement, he has used up all his savings and spends his days looking for jobs to make ends meet. Both the eldest son and Avril were picky about jobs because they felt they deserved better, but they often clashed with coworkers and customers because of their arrogant attitudes. They got fired repeatedly. Avril apparently got dumped by her private tutor, applying the principle, out of sight, out of mind. The eldest son considered divorcing, but they're living together to save on rent and living expenses. Thanks to Avril's affair, she can't stand up to her husband and is subdued. Now that Avril's unannounced visits and verbal abuses towards my second son's family have stopped, we're enjoying our peaceful daily lives. Sierra's smiles have become more frequent, and perhaps thanks to her newfound emotional stability, her health has also started to improve. We're hopeful that her symptoms will continue to get better, and eventually she won't need to visit the doctor anymore. Our grandson comes over from time to time, engaging in lively games and chit-chats about school with his sister. The sparkle in his eyes tells us he's enjoying his freedom away from his parents, thriving at his maternal grandfather's home. Moving forward, husband and I plan to continue supporting our second son's family and look forward to many happy days ahead.
Come on, what's with that attitude? You could at least cooperate for the New Year's celebration. Don't you think it's embarrassing that we're the only ones without any family around while everyone else's relatives are here?
I was too consumed with unbearable pain to listen to what my husband was saying. Oh, wait a second, my stomach hurts really bad right now. I tried to get the point across, but my husband was not listening.
What? You're probably faking it. You really are a coward.
Please, it really hurts. If I have to go to the hospital, I won't be able to take care of our daughter. Come home now.
Seriously, cut it out. I'm telling you not to embarrass me in front of the relatives. Don't embarrass me, just suck it up if your stomach hurts.
My husband yelled and then hung up the phone. Exhausted from dealing with him, I sank into a chair only to feel a growing wetness in my lower body. Oh no, my water just broke. I tried to move but was paralyzed by increasing pain. I have to deal with the water breaking, but what about my daughter? I was pondering this when my daughter walked into the room concerned. What's wrong, Mom? My name is Jennifer, a 35-year-old office worker. I live with my husband, John, also an office worker, and our third-grade daughter, Sarah. I had my daughter when I was 24 and haven't been pregnant since, so I thought I wouldn't have another child. However, I'm pregnant again after 9 years and due this January. As unexpected as this timing is, it's a joyful event that makes my heart race. My daughter is also beyond excited to have a new sibling. Sarah will help out, she says it with such joy. But there is one person who's not thrilled about this pregnancy. My husband, John. I'm currently on maternity leave, and while I'm at home, he can't help but make snide comments about how I'm not making money yet still costing him. Excuse me? Whose child does he think this is? I'm pregnant with your baby. I'm on paid leave. I hold back from saying anything, otherwise his pride gets triggered and he becomes furious. So I'm brushing off the sarcastic remarks from my husband, but lately, my daughter has been stepping in to respond in my place. Taking after someone, my daughter is quite the eloquent speaker, and my husband is being out-talked by our 9-year-old daughter. Mom's taking time off to have a baby, she says. Dad, you have no idea how hard childbirth is. You should be supporting her. Mom has been doing housework even while pregnant. Why can't you say such terrible things to Mom, Dad? Whenever she hits him with logic, he flushes red and retreats to his room. Thanks to her, I have been spared from John's nagging, which has been a relief. Sarah has even been reading books on pregnancy and childbirth, educating herself on the topic. I am so proud of how smart she's becoming. Still, it feels wrong to let our daughter witness our marital disputes. Of course, she would prefer if her parents got along. While I'm glad she's on my side, I can't shake off the guilt about John, who's usually out working, so I make sure to at least do all the housework flawlessly. In the midst of all this, an incident that would spark major tension arose. My husband loves his family home. He goes back for Thanksgiving and New Year's celebrations and pretty much any other occasion. I would be fine if he went alone, but he always insists I come along.
It's your duty as my wife. Don't embarrass me. The whole family is there.
He would say stuff like this, dismissing my feelings, and drag me along. It's a 6-hour drive to his parents' house, so a day trip is out of the question. We have to stay overnight. His family has even said to me, we understand it's a lot, so just come for Thanksgiving and New Year's. But my husband would counter,
Don't you care about my family?
why do we have to go every time? Even your mom understands. And isn't it a bit too much? Even when I say this, he argues.
It's where I grew up. Showing up with my wife and kids is how I honor my parents. Are you trying to get in the way of that?
This kind of disagreement happened a lot. In fact, when our daughter was born, I had complications and fainted at his family home, ending up in the hospital. Even so, he insists we should go back for the next New Year's celebration. No matter what happens, I want to stay home this time, I plead.
It's not like pregnancy is a sickness. There's no reason to worry, he says. You didn't end up in the hospital this time, right? So it's fine. So, are you using pregnancy as an excuse because you really just don't want to go?
He keeps making these baffling statements. Riding in a car for 6 hours while pregnant is just out of the question. I would rather rest at home, especially given what happened last time. I was lucky I didn't have to be hospitalized. Please listen to me. You're the only one I can rely on if anything happens. Can you just stay home for New Year's this year? Despite my plea, my husband only got angrier, his face turning red.
You just don't want to go to my parents' house, do you? There's no reason to worry. You've been seeing the doctor regularly.
I never said I didn't want to go. I'm genuinely concerned.
Fine, then you talk to my family about it.
With that, he started dialing his parents' house. He handed me the mobile phone. Reluctantly, I took the phone and William, John's brother, answered. William and his wife live with John's parents. In fact, I think it's unnecessary for us to make frequent visits when William and his family are already there.
Hello, John.
William, sorry, it's Jennifer?
Oh, it's you, Jennifer. What's up?
William, I'm sorry, but we would like to stay home for the New Year celebration. Our due date is around that time.
Hearing that, William replied, I understand. Of course, that's fine. You're going through a lot right now. There is no need to make a special trip for family gatherings.
His words, please take care of yourself, made me tear up. William continued with kind words.
We should have been more considerate last time. I'm sorry. We should have stopped you from coming in the first place, considering your condition.
No, it was my fault.
Don't say that, Jennifer. You're the one who is going through the most. It's only natural for everyone to be considerate of you. Let us know if there's anything we can do to help. We are just as happy to have a new addition to the family, you know?
What a great brother-in-law he is. I ended up venting about my husband. My husband insists on going back to his parents' house for the New Year's celebration. Even when I say I'm worried because the baby could arrive any moment, he dismisses me by saying it'll be fine since I'm not hospitalized. He even got angry with me, asking if I'm not interested in respecting his parents. Choking back tears as I explained to my brother-in-law, he asked,
Can you put John on speaker? What's up, William? John, you're planning on taking Jennifer to your parents' house for the New Year's celebration, right? Yeah, I am, and yet Jennifer is being stubborn and doesn't want to go. Do you even understand why Jennifer doesn't want to go to your parents' house? Huh? It's probably because she finds it awkward at my parents' place, isn't it? She's just being selfish.
My husband's rude remark angered my brother-in-law.
Have you forgotten what happened last time? What will you do if the same thing happens again? When Jennifer collapsed and was hospitalized, we were genuinely worried. We were relieved that nothing serious happened. Do you think it's fine this time? Are you a doctor? The symptoms Jennifer was diagnosed with last time could be life-threatening for both her and the baby. How would you take responsibility if something happened to Jennifer or the baby, and you say it's okay to go, but that's a 6-hour drive? What if Jennifer suddenly falls ill and loses consciousness on the highway? How many minutes would it take for an ambulance to get there? Are you really thinking about Jennifer and the baby's safety? Even a child knows what's more important between a family visit and the birth of your child.
Finally, my husband calmed down after hearing all this from my brother-in-law. My husband's face turns pale. Seriously, he's a terrible husband if he doesn't understand the gravity of the situation until I spell it out for him. Then my brother-in-law graciously says,
I'm really sorry for the trouble my brother has caused you. I apologize on his behalf. Please enjoy the new year at home. I'll let the rest of the family know.
My husband mumbles, William worries too much, with an uncomfortable look on his face. From now on, I'll consult my brother-in-law before listening to my husband. Thanks to my brother-in-law's stern words, I was able to relax at the beginning of December despite the pre-birth drama. But as the end of the month approaches, my husband starts complaining about not being able to go to his parents' house. Finally, New Year's Eve arrives. I have finished cleaning the house and preparing for the New Year's celebration. I was relaxing with my daughter when my husband says,
I need to buy something. I'll be back.
And drives off around 3 p.m. And then night falls with no sign of him returning. I call him, but he doesn't answer. I have no choice but to eat dinner and watch the ball drop with my daughter. What on earth is going on? I wonder this in the back of my mind as we watch the countdown concert on TV and ring in a peaceful New Year's Eve with laughter. The next day, despite the new year arriving, he still hasn't returned in the morning. I wish he would at least get in touch. It's worrying when there is no news from him. Although there is no snow in our area, there's still a chance he could be in an accident. Feeling uneasy, my daughter and I nibble on the New Year's feast. After finishing our meal, I was relaxing when my husband called. It sounded chaotic in the background.
Hey, you should come over too.
Wait, what are you talking about? Where?
It's my parents' house, duh.
Seriously?
Everyone's here having a drink, so hurry up.
Turns out he was at his parents' house for New Year's Eve. Wait, you told me you were going out to get groceries. Was that a lie?
I don't know, but I'll eat your share if you don't show up.
He was clearly drunk. Despite my previous appeals, nothing had gotten through to him. My daughter looked on concerned. Fearing a fight, I took the call into another room. Listen, ask William or someone else to take you home. Just as I said that, a sudden pain struck me. Regardless, my husband's tone became increasingly irritated.
What's with that attitude? I've been putting up with your whims this whole time. Cooperate for the New Year's celebration at least.
I had asked him to hold off just for the New Year's celebration. It's not like he had cooperated with anything before.
It's embarrassing if we're the only ones not present when all the relatives are there.
He went on and on about that, but my attention was consumed by excruciating pain. Oh, wait a second. My stomach hurts really bad. The pain is getting worse. I tried to explain, but my husband was not willing to listen.
Really? You're probably faking it. You're such a coward.
Please, it's really hurting. If I get hospitalized, I won't be able to take care of our daughter. Come home now.
Enough is enough. I told you not to embarrass me in front of my relatives. Don't drag my name through the mud. If your stomach hurts, suck it up.
My husband yelled over the phone and then the call disconnected. Drained from the conversation with my husband, I slumped into a chair. That's when I felt it. A sudden wet sensation down below. Oh no. My water broke. I tried to get up, but the pain intensified, making it impossible to move. I have to clean up after my water breaking, but what about Sarah, our daughter? Fighting through the pain and lost in thought, Sarah walked into the room worried. Mom, where's Dad? Sorry, Sarah, can you come here first? What? Mom, what's wrong? Sarah, can you call an ambulance with this phone? Frozen by pain, all I could do was ask for her help. Sarah looked panicked, unsure of what to do. I realized I had never taught her how to call an emergency line. I had to tell her how to do it while I'm still conscious. Just then, Sarah said, I'm going to get the neighbor. And she dashed out of the house. After a minute, our neighbor arrived. Sarah knew she couldn't handle it and immediately called an adult for help. Jennifer, are you okay? I'm calling an ambulance right now. Our neighbor did just that, and in that moment, I was grateful for having such a supportive community. Sarah held my hand and rubbed my back until the ambulance arrived. During the ride, our neighbor contacted my parents. Finally, the ambulance got there. I gave birth later that day. The next day, both parents arrived at the hospital. It's a healthy baby boy born a bit early. Tried reaching out to my husband but couldn't get through. He never showed up. He finally comes on January 3rd, brought by my brother-in-law. Brother-in-law apologized to me even though it wasn't his fault.
Sorry, we're late bringing my brother here. He says he had his phone off since New Year's and didn't realize you were going through all this.
Brother-in-law is apologizing while the person who should be apologizing is sulking beside him. Turns out my dad had been trying to call my husband's cell but couldn't get through, so he finally reached him on our home phone. William, I appreciate you coming, but I don't want to see my husband right now. I'm even considering divorce, I say. At this, my previously sullen husband looks up, eyes wide.
What? You're getting too full of yourself. Who do you think you are talking about divorce?
Brother-in-law is stunned.
Hey, John, what are you saying?
But my husband keeps insulting me.
She's just being dramatic. She probably just wants us to worry about her.
Just then, the door to the hospital room opens.
What's going on here?
It's my dad, Thomas.
Oh, Thomas?
My husband looks shaken at his arrival. Dad had just taken my daughter out for lunch.
John, is this how you speak to my daughter regularly? Answer me clearly.
My husband straightens up at my father's angry voice.
You accused her of faking it while she was in so much pain? Her water broke. Can you still say that looking at Jennifer now? Enough. She'll be recuperating at my house for a while, and you are not seeing her or the baby until further notice, understand? So you get it now?
Seems like my husband finally understood the mess he's made.
What's gonna happen when I'm at work? Who's gonna take care of me?
I take that back. He's still as useless as ever.
Take care of yourself. Our daughter managed to work and handle house chores before going on maternity leave, didn't she? If you're an adult, act like one.
My father shouted. My husband still had more complaints, but my brother-in-law intervened.
I'm really sorry for my brother's actions. Congratulations on the new arrival. Please accept this gift, even though it's late and not much.
My brother-in-law handed us a generous baby gift and then left, taking my husband with him. Dad, I'm really sorry for causing you trouble.
When he came to ask for your hand in marriage, I thought he was a more reliable man.
After that, I took some time to recover at my parents' home. Good thing my daughter was on winter break. After about 2 weeks, my dad and I went back to the home where my husband was. We left our new baby and daughter with my mom. Finally, face to face with my husband, the house was just as I had feared, dirty and dusty. He had been living off fast food. The empty boxes filled multiple trash bags. My father and I sat down with him in the living room. I'll get straight to the point. I want a divorce. I pushed the divorce papers towards him.
You serious about divorce?
You can't even say thank you or well done for giving birth.
Well, you're a mom. Isn't giving birth just part of the job?
My husband spat out the words almost immediately after the conversation began. My father's face grew increasingly stern. My husband continued to spout nonsense.
I just found out it's a boy. Well, then I don't want a divorce. I've always wanted a son. I'll raise him to be a baseball player. You know, Ichiro became a huge star practicing with his dad. I want to do that kind of stuff.
I was so dumbfounded, I couldn't even speak. What does he think his own children are? Ichiro's father never saw his son as a cash cow, unlike you. Unable to stand our silence any longer, the living room door burst open. I tried to wait until the right moment to intervene, but I can't stand this anymore. In came mother-in-law. My husband was shocked by her sudden entrance. John, get a grip. Who do you think enables you to go to work stress-free? Who's taking care of the kids instead of you? Who's cooking every day? Do you have any idea who keeps this household running? It's all thanks to Jennifer. In fact, this house falls apart when Jennifer gone for just 2 weeks. You're sorely lacking in gratitude. Realize how blessed you have been. No more troubling Jennifer. Divorce is the only option. Mother-in-law yelled and my husband cowered and finally signed the divorce papers. And so my divorce was finalized. Through my lawyer, I secured child support payments for both my daughter and son. As for my ex-husband, he was forcefully taken back to his parents' house and is now being put to work by his parents and brother-in-law. He's apparently complaining daily about wanting to escape. How ironic that a man who used to love going home is now saying the exact opposite. Meanwhile, I've successfully returned to work after maternity and parental leave. Thanks to my in-laws' consideration, I got to keep the house I had been living in with my ex-husband as part of the property settlement. I am genuinely grateful for the kindness of my in-laws who didn't want to make my daughter feel lonely by transferring schools. As for my daughter, she has had enough of her dad and promptly refused to see him after the divorce. I have no intention of letting my son see him either.
I'll let his family work on straightening out his twisted personality. If the day ever comes when he changes his ways and the kids want to see him, I might consider it, but the day might never come. No matter what, I'm committed to raising my children to be responsible individuals. I'll continue to work hard every day, all for you, my precious ones.
I'm sorry to ask, but can you not come to the wedding tomorrow? I didn't understand what was being said, so I immediately asked for clarification. What do you mean? Exactly what I said. I think Marty would also prefer if his low-level sister, who works at a supermarket, didn't come. I finally got a taste of what it felt like to be looked down upon. It's for Marty's sake. When they said it was for my brother, I couldn't say anything anymore. My name is Joanna. When I was in 9th grade, my parents passed away in a car accident, leaving my brother Marty and me alone. At first, I couldn't comprehend what had happened. We didn't have any reliable relatives, so our teachers took care of the funeral arrangements and other necessities. I could only watch, holding Marty's hand tightly. Only after the funeral, when it was just Marty and me in the house, did I finally understand. I cried my eyes out. I cried until I fell asleep from exhaustion. When I woke up, I felt considerably calmer, as if I had used up a lifetime's worth of tears. With a clear mind, I thought about how to go on living. Protecting Marty, that's what matters most. I decided not to go to college and to start working instead. I was worried about finding work without a high school diploma, but a classmate's parent who ran a supermarket offered me a job. Would you like to work here? The pay isn't great, but everyone is really nice. Everyone else was enjoying high school life in their new uniforms. Honestly, I was envious. But to make ends meet, I had to work. Thankfully, Marty understood the situation. When he came home from school, he would help with dinner and cleaning. Being the sweet guy that Marty is, I wanted him to at least continue doing what he loved, playing soccer. Marty wanted to quit because of the travel costs for matches, but the coach and I convinced him to stay. Maybe it's just my perception, but I believe Marty has a real talent for soccer. On the days when there were soccer games, I'd take the day off work or get a break just to cheer for Marty. At first, other parents were surprised to see a sister, not a parent, showing up for Marty. But as Marty excelled in soccer and my cheers got louder, the weird looks disappeared. Once Marty hit high school, scouts from colleges and even pro leagues started showing up to see him. That helped him get a college scholarship for athletics. When it came time for college, Marty said,
I'm going to work. I can't keep depending on you, sis.
But I shook my head. I want you to keep chasing your dreams, Marty. I want to live the youth I couldn't have through you. Marty frowned a bit at my words.
I'll definitely go pro and take care of you, sis.
Thank you, but you don't have to worry about me. My only dream is for you to become a pro soccer player. I smiled warmly to reassure Marty. Don't worry about me, I'll be fine.
Sure, sis. You're more hardworking than me, but...
To me, Marty was the true hard worker. As promised, Marty went pro after honing his skills in college. I kept working at the supermarket, eventually moving to part-time as time grew short. I had run out of time to pursue my dreams, so I took up a part-time job. Believe it or not, 15 years had nearly passed since I started working at this supermarket. One evening during my break, I got a text from Marty on my cell phone. The text said,
"There's someone I want you to meet."
I stood up in excitement, forgetting I was in the supermarket break room. I was so happy Marty had found someone special that I even cried while telling my coworkers and manager. Marty was a very good kid who rarely made demands. He lost all his rebellious tendencies after our parents passed away. He even considered quitting soccer, which he loved just to support me. And now I get to meet someone special to Marty. Could I be happier? The text had the date, time, and the name of a restaurant at a nearby hotel. When I told my coworkers, they said, "You have to dress stylishly." I was always mindful of how I dressed, but I didn't own anything fancy. After my part-time shift, my coworkers dragged me to the shopping district. I was dressed in various outfits at boutiques I'd usually never enter, finally selecting a classy but simple dress. After that, we headed to a major mall where I bought branded makeup and got a makeup tutorial. Finally, I felt a sense of liberation. Though shopping after work drains me more than my part-time job, the fatigue was not unwelcome. I'd been counting down the days on my calendar, eagerly awaiting this day. A few days later, I sat in the hotel lobby where we agreed to meet, wearing a dress I'd bought with a coworker. I'm not great at makeup, but I think I did it right, just as I was taught. Feeling nervous, I waited for the two of them. Then, suddenly, I heard someone call from behind me,
Sis!
Turning around slowly, I saw Marty in a suit and a stunning woman with long hair next to him.
Sis, you look amazing!
I went all out on being stylish. Marty said he wanted to introduce me to someone special. As I said this and laughed, Marty seemed pleased.
Let me introduce you. This is my fiancée, Vanessa.
Nice to meet you. I'm Vanessa, your future sister-in-law. Receiving such a courteous greeting from an incredibly beautiful woman, I found myself getting even more nervous. Somehow managing to say, "I'm Marty's sister, Joanna," we decided to move to a restaurant. Once we were seated, we chatted about various things. Vanessa comes from a well-known family around here, and her father is apparently quite wealthy.
Marty has told me about you. After your parents passed away, you've been like a parent to him.
Parent-like, I wouldn't say.
Don't be modest. You gave up high school for me and went to work.
Wait, you didn't finish high school? Yeah, I started working right after middle school at a supermarket. It's been 15 years now. Just then, something felt off. Though Vanessa was nodding and making cute faces, it felt like she was looking down on me from behind her eyes. I thought it was my imagination, but then I saw her sneer when Marty wasn't looking. "Your dress suits you well." She complimented my dress, but the way she scanned me from head to toe and snickered under her breath confirmed it. She definitely looked down on me.
Next year, we're planning to get married,
Marty said, looking a bit embarrassed. To be honest, I wasn't thrilled, but if this was Marty's choice, I had to be happy for him. All I could do was offer my biggest smile and say, "Congratulations!" So our meetup ended. Though I had some reservations, if they were happy, who was I to say anything? I let it go. Days flew by, and before I knew it, Marty's wedding day was tomorrow. As I was getting my outfit and other necessities ready, a call came in from Vanessa on my cell. I returned her call immediately, wondering what could be wrong.
"I'm busy too. Could you get to the point?"
I never expected to be greeted like that right off the bat. I should have left on time, and I know it's my fault. So I genuinely say, I'm sorry. On the other end of the phone, Vanessa lets out a sigh-like sound. "Oh, look." Then she throws a shocking statement my way.
"Could you, sister-in-law, please not come to the wedding tomorrow?"
What? I didn't understand her meaning, so I asked her again. Vanessa, what are you saying?
I mean, exactly what I said. I don't think even Marty would want his sister who works at a grocery store to come.
Her condescending tone makes me realize what it's like to be belittled. She doesn't even try to hide her mockery. But no matter what, I can't miss my only brother's wedding. Vanessa, that's not gonna happen.
I'm the bride, so if I say it's possible, then it is. Please don't make me say it again.
It's also for Marty's sake. When she brings up Marty's sake, I can't argue anymore. The wedding will have guests like the coach and players of the team Marty is part of. Also, there will be people from the major corporations Vanessa's family does business with. People you typically call elites. I can't deny that I've wondered if me, a high school dropout, being there would ruin the atmosphere. Marty might say, "Don't worry about it," but I'm sure others won't feel the same way. Maybe it would be better to follow Vanessa's suggestion and not attend. Fine, I won't come, but can I at least send a congratulatory message? Even though it might be rude over the phone, if I can't say it in person, then what? Never mind then, Vanessa curtly says, hanging up the phone. Stunned, I hold my disconnected phone. I wish I could have seen Marty happy with my own eyes. I push the packed bag into the corner of the room and crawl into bed. I'll just sleep through today. I don't feel like doing anything, and if I let my guard down, I might start crying. I forcefully close my eyes, but I couldn't sleep until morning. The next morning, I check my phone and find several missed calls from Marty. No surprise there. The whole family was supposed to head to the wedding venue early in the morning. Just then, another call from Marty comes in. I answer the phone. Hello? Sis, where are you? I'm coming to get you. Marty, I can't make today. I can sense the urgency on the other end. Why? Marty asks with a sad voice. I'm torn about telling the truth when Marty continues. Did Vanessa say something? Is that it? How did you? Did Vanessa say something to Marty? Before I could ask, he says, Never mind, just get here now. We'll talk later. Then he hangs up. Even though I planned not to go, I hurriedly get ready and leave the house, concerned about Marty and Vanessa. When I arrive at the venue, I can hear shouting even before I enter the waiting room. Guided by the venue staff, I enter to find Marty, Vanessa, and her parents in a heated argument. Around them, relatives who were supposed to attend are confused. What do you mean, not inviting sis to the wedding? I can't invite a sister-in-law who works at a grocery store. It's embarrassing. Both of Vanessa's parents, standing next to her, nod in agreement. It's disheartening, but they seem to be on the same page. Seeing their reaction, Marty's anger reaches a boiling point. What do you mean I should be embarrassed? Sis has been working hard her entire life to raise me. Vanessa snorts at his words. Because of your sis, I might never get married, you know. I should be more important than her, right? So it is. Vanessa says as if it's the most natural thing in the world. Yeah, of course. Her parents chime in. Absolutely. Meanwhile, Marty looks like he's about to burst a blood vessel. Marty, Vanessa, let's calm down a bit. I hastily step in, but Vanessa suddenly realizes I'm at the venue and shouts. Why are you here? People like you who work at supermarkets weren't invited. Leave now. Why does she have to say things like this? I didn't want to cry in front of Vanessa, but I felt tears welling up. Just then, a voice rings out from a gap in the crowd of relatives who had been watching from afar. Hold on a minute. I can't ignore that low-level comment. The voice's owner makes his way through the crowd and stands in front of us. Coach. It's Marty's teen coach. He came early to attend the ceremony and, hearing the commotion, decided to step in. Judging people by their profession isn't right, he says. Enough with the lectures, please. Vanessa gives the coach a pained look. Even she can't keep up her bravado in front of the coach. Well, that may be. The coach gives a wry smile and takes a book from his bag. Realizing what the book is, all my sadness flies away, replaced by a surge of embarrassment. You sure she's low level even by your standards? The coach asks. That's a best-selling book. What does it have to do with this? The person who wrote this bestseller is none other than Marty's sister, Joanna. What? Vanessa and her parents are left speechless. The book the coach is holding is a novel I published under the pseudonym Annie. The story traces back to before Marty became a pro soccer player. When life began to stabilize, I took up reading as a hobby, mainly because it was an affordable pastime. I found joy in reading books at the library near the supermarket, a place I frequented. That library had a computer corner open to the public, where I ventured into writing as an extension of my love for books. On a whim, I entered a contest and ended up winning, which led to a connection with a publishing house. Now, I'm a recognized author of several best-selling novels, and I am often featured in the media.
I've never heard this story before.
After a moment of silence, Vanessa starts to speak as if she can't believe what's going on. Cutting her off, Marty says,
I didn't say it before, but it's true.
Glaring at Vanessa as she speaks. Something about Marty's reaction must have convinced her it's not a lie. Vanessa turns to look at me, her expression changing from devilish to as radiant as a flower.
If you're such an amazing person, that's a different story. Please join the ceremony.
Don't mess with me. I'm not marrying you.
At Marty's words, Vanessa looks ready to explode.
What did you say?
The coach holds Vanessa back.
There's no way we can just go back to normal after you've treated my precious sister like this. I'm sorry, but I can't marry you, Vanessa.
Marty deeply apologizes in front of Vanessa's parents and the relatives who are planning to attend the wedding. Vanessa's parents also raise their voices.
You can't be serious.
But the relatives standing behind them hold them back. There was some drama, but eventually, it was decided that Vanessa's side of the attendees should leave. Vanessa kept shouting, "You have to marry me!" until the end. Back in the dressing room, it's just me and Marty. Marty, looking completely drained, sits down on the sofa. Are you sure it's okay to call off the wedding? I can't help but ask, even if it's reopening old wounds. Marty lets out a dry laugh.
Being a soccer player means you have a limited time in the spotlight. I don't think a marriage with Vanessa, who is so obsessed with her career, would last long.
That makes sense. Marty has a point. I can easily picture how Vanessa, who ridiculed me so much for working at a supermarket, would treat Marty after he quit soccer. Why didn't you tell her that I'm a writer? I throw another question at Marty. Marty hadn't told Vanessa that I'm a writer. It felt like there was some meaning behind this.
I just didn't think it was necessary.
Marty smiles. But I can't help but think that maybe Marty had noticed something about Vanessa's true nature. Several discussions took place between both families, and the marriage, the engagement, was officially called off. Vanessa and her parents resisted until the end, but it seems the relatives managed to hold them back. Even after the marriage fell through, Marty continues to thrive in soccer. On the other hand, it seems like Vanessa's family faced a tough time after her outburst in the waiting room got sold to the media. As for me, I'm considering turning this experience into a novel while continuing my writing and supermarket job. I plan to keep teaming up with Marty, just like we always have.